Should we all join hands?
Yes.
Yes, let's all join hands. Kumbaya. Yep.
My Lord. I think, hey, last week we had our shortest episode ever, I think.
Yeah.
Actually, no, we had an episode, we had a short episode before that. It was when we did the um, podcasting while COVIDing or whatever, while
Hmm.
surviving COVID. That was short. But this one was like about 39 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was good. I don't know. I don't know. No, I mean no.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good.
Well, all right then.
We
So we
condensed ourselves like milk.
let's go ahead and do this one and see what we get out of it. Innit?
Yes.
We probably la 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 la. That's not good, right? Georgia.
Yes, Graham.
Oh, I thought you were gonna get started.
I was going to get started.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to get started. I was waiting on you.
So it's my thing, right? The whole starting thing. So the whole starting thing is my thing.
I believe so. That was my understanding in the contract. I think when we had that written out by the attorneys, isn't that what it said?
Speak to my attorney. I hate when poor people do that. Yeah, like, if you don't pick up my phone call next time, you're gonna speak to my attorney. You don't have an attorney. You don't have an attorney on retainer like that. You just
And even if you do, I'm not going to answer his call either. So
yeah, like what is he gonna do? Come and beat me up? Why are we talking about this anyway? Come on, let's do this.
This is Kickin' and Streamin' Podcast, a binge watcher's guide to streaming movies, TV series, and stuff. Here are your hosts, Graham and Jocelyn.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Kicking and Streaming Podcast. My name is Graham, and of course, with me is the very fantastic, absolutely delightful Jojo. Hello, Jojo.
howdy do, Graham.
Jojo, we're doing all right. We are doing all right. You know, we're talking about lawyers and attorneys and shit.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how we got to that point, but hey, man, that's what we do.
That's what we do.
Right. So
it's the in stuff part.
you know, we're so sure that nobody is going to watch this live on YouTube and Twitch that we just talk shit and like we're not gonna creep out anybody. Like
No,
anybody
cares.
watching it.
Nobody cares.
Anyway, but let's say hello to our the people who listen to the audio podcast. Hello there. Thank you for coming back every week. And this week we have something good. Last week we had a quite good show, but it was a bit short. We didn't have a lot to say about it. Nonetheless, it was one of those movies that we enjoyed watching. However, this time we are talking about a two-part documentary series on HBO Max, and it is called The Crime of the Century. It's enough to make you mad, enough to make you wanna, throw some rocks at somebody, punch a wall. But it is good information that we should all know. It is good recent history, contemporary history that we should all know. And Jojo and I have decided we need to talk about this a bit more, right, Jojo?
Yep. I enjoy it when we get to talk about documentaries because I personally enjoy documentaries, not over anything, but I just enjoy them. And to me, I don't think they get really enough attention except for a very niche, perhaps, group of folks who like to watch documentaries. So I love it when we get to talk about them. And not only, as you said, this is contemporary history. This is current history. This is still happening. This is still
Yeah.
unfolding. We are currently living this. So to get a background on what we're currently going through and how it started is very, I think, important, and very important for decisions to be made for what's going on now to help inform folks.
And so, in that respect, Jojo, I think what should be happening now is this is where you tell folks what this documentary film is about and why we're going to be raging about for the next hour or so.
So it's called The Crime of the Century. It's available for streaming on HBO Max. And it is the story of, it begins with the story of the Sackler family and their purchase of a small pharmaceutical company a very long time ago called Purdue Pharma. Their invention and patent of a particular kind of slow release coating for medication that quickly turned into someone thinking, hey, this would be a great way to give morphine to people who were in pain. And from there, it turned into the creation of marketing medication to Americans. And that is something that's sort of unprecedented in the rest of the world. People are shocked by that sort of thing when they come to America and see commercials for medication. But the Sackler family put the framework, the groundwork down for advertising and pushing pills. And this documentary goes into not only all of that, but what it has led to, which is the current situation with the opioid crisis that is currently happening across all of America, but you could say is certainly hitting the poorer, whiter regions of the country a lot harder than others.
Yeah, Jojo, I think that's it right there. Yes, you know, it's hard to swallow sometimes because we know that this country has maintained a long history of what do they call it? War on drugs. And the war on drugs is has long been suspected of being a ploy to incarcerate as many people of color and minorities as possible. And uh, I think one of the things that this documentary demonstrates is that, much in the same way, for instance, that when it comes to illegal immigration or undocumented immigrants, the majority of undocumented immigrants come into this country with documents and just overstay. So they come through the airports as opposed to, to southern borders. Meanwhile, we only pay attention to the southern border. It's the same thing with drugs, in that pharmaceutical companies, specifically the Sackler family and a few distributors, are a major problem, equally as bad as illicit drugs. But they have the ability to buy their way into, Congress and and politicians and get away with it, even though they have a trail of dead people, in especially within the Appalachian region, that they've left behind, but nothing has happened to them. It's pure absolute impunity. But still, we have a war on drugs. So, Jojo, let me put the ball on your corner. So, what did you think of this documentary in terms of the way it exposes everything? And I say that because we always talk about documentary films, and we know that some of them have, uh, uh, for the most part, an agenda, and that agenda might well be, I'm just here to tell the truth, and the But in some cases, it's just, yeah, I don't like these folks, and I have some things to say about them, and whether I it's the truth or whether it's a thinly veiled lie that seems to be the truth or is similar to the truth, then I'll say it. So, what do you think this documentary accomplishes in terms of its stance? Uh, as for the what is it gaining from telling this truth?
Um, my take on the documentary was that it was really solely informational, that it was going to be factual, and this is what happened, and this is how it happened, and this is why it happened, and kind of take you step by step through the many years that it took for us to get where we currently are when it comes to the state of the opioid epidemic crisis, whatever you want to call it. Um, and I didn't really see any sort of agenda in sense of politics or anything like that. The only agenda I saw was truth. The importance of journalism and investigative journalism, and the push to get out truth whenever possible, so people can understand what's happening, because so much of this was able to be covered up just due to the fact there was so much money that was laying around and passing around.
So, let me ask you this: why do you think in a country like the United States, like we don't, this is not a country that has outright in your face political corruption, in comparison to other countries, right?
Sure.
Like there are rules and regulations, checks and balances that, for the most part, work, but it always it almost seems that the same people that create the regulations and the checks and balances, they then at some point they change course, they jump ship, and then they go and tell the other side, here's how you're going to beat this.
Yes.
Why is that, in your view, such a hard problem to tackle in American legislation?
I I I I don't think it should be allowed per se, for someone who worked for a sensitive government agency to go work for a pharmaceutical company, or an insurance company, or any sort of company that is going to be able to push or attempt to push legislation through that is going to profit them. That's essentially the same, I would think, as, I don't know, hiring a Russian agent to be the head of the FBI. I mean, I just
Yeah.
it's not. It doesn't seem ethical to me. It really seems like there's too much of a conflict of interest there to be able to ethically complete your job and say, oh no, I can cut this part of what I was doing for the government or for the people out of it and just do my private side of it with this pharmaceutical company, insurance company, whatever. Um, I don't know how they're retaining their licenses in the case of the folks who are attorneys, because to me that's a clear conflict of interest.
Do you think, to a certain extent, would you put the blame solely on big pharma, or do you think also, the government, just by looking the other way, is complicit?
I think the government's completely complicit, because the fact of looking the other way makes them complicit. Um, Big Pharma has discovered a loophole or a weakness or whatever in the system and is exploiting it to their own profit. And what it comes down to, in everything that we learned in this documentary and all the videos we saw from their sales team meetings and things like that, it's sell, 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 profit, 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 uncapped bonuses, that kind of thing. So that the massive amounts of money that they are able to generate is going to corrupt anybody. And to be able to use that to pull in people who have worked for the government or who know a lot about how the government works, is just, to me, should not be something that the government should allow. I'll take the case of the man who um, actually approved the drug,
Yeah.
oxy, I forgot, cotton,
Oxycontin. Yeah.
oxycontin. What I don't understand is how one doctor was able to get it passed, and it's said to be by the whole FDA. I don't understand that. That should have never happened, but that is what happened. One doctor reviewed it and said, cool. And then he was hired by the pharmaceutical company that he approved the drug for less than a year later. That should have never happened. That proved he was in their pockets to begin with. There was meetings, there was lots of information and paperwork backing up all of the
Yeah.
facts that he had been in collusion with them,
Yeah.
and it just went through.
And the one thing I don't understand is that if a group of journalists, investigative journalists, it was so easy for them to actually find out that this doctor what was his name? Wright, last name Wright?
Curtis Wright, is that right?
Curtis Wright, exactly. This
Okay.
Dr. Curtis Wright, the Sackler people camped out of the motel where he was staying. They met with him. He basically drafted the language to the whole to the the warning labels and
Yes.
everything.
Yes. They
How
practically
is
held
it?
his hand while he signed off on it.
Yes. How in the bloody hell there was no oversight? How could it be that all of this went under the radar? It's almost to me as if, the whole I don't see nothing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. It's very mind-boggling to me for something that is supposed to have as much power as the FDA to allow this to have happened and only have it peer reviewed by one person.
yeah.
And I don't even know that he was an expert in opioids. I don't remember that
No.
being said. He was just a
No.
doctor, as far
Yeah.
as I know, which
Yeah.
they can specialize in all kinds of things. I don't know. He might have been a gynecologist, I do not understand how that happened. And it also is scary when you think about how many other times it must have happened with other drugs.
Yes. And the crazy thing is like other drugs at least get recalled.
Yes.
But these people, the
Yes.
Sackler, they are powerful enough
Yes.
to let's talk about the whole I'll give you whatever fine you say I should give you, except that I'm not admitting any guilt.
Yes. Yes.
This is nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. How can you tell me, yeah, I mean, I'll pay you whatever you want me to pay you, but I didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can't say I had anything to do with it. That for any, why did you start the persecution to begin with?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
if nothing happened here, right? Why did you start the persecution to begin with?
Yes.
Secondly, why are you willing to pay the fine if nothing happened here? Come on, fight me in court. Why don't you try that?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't understand why that is allowed. Those kinds of plea deals are allowed in very high profile cases like that.
Yeah.
Because it's not like they paid billions of dollars. They paid a traffic ticket. Well, I liked that term
Exactly.
that they kept saying. For them, it was
Yes.
a traffic ticket, and it was never, their names were never attached to anything. The company name was never attached to having ever pled to anything or nothing at all like that. So I don't know why that exists in such a high profile and such an important case. I understand why it exists in smaller cases because people may roll over, they may give testimony against somebody that you need. That wasn't going to happen here. All they got here was a little bit of money and a lot of wasted time. So I don't understand why that exists in high profile cases. I don't get it.
And there is also the case of disregard. Here's what I can tell you. If the people who were dying of overdoses from these medication were as high profile as the Sackler, if they were the grandchildren, the little friends of the senators and the Congress people's grandchildren, if that was happening within their community, something would have been done. And something, like I said, something would have been done. But when you tell them, the area that seem to be most affected by these are poor people from the mountains of Appalachia, you can see the disregard. And not only the disregard, but creating the narrative that they are the bad ones.
Yes.
They are misusing this drug, so they are to blame. It's not the drug. It's the same argument with the fucking gun shit.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Guns don't kill people. It's people that kill people. Yes, but with a motherfucking gun.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's it's just, do not tell me. But like, the only reason you'll get overdose is if you get your hands on fucking drugs.
Yes.
That is as simple as that.
Yes.
And you are going around telling doctors there is no such thing as getting hooked on, like, a person with pain is not gonna get hooked on this because there's no like okay, come on. Pseudo addiction, was that?
That was the term that was made up by I believe Purdue Pharma invented the term pseudo.
And it was by some dude who has no
He wasn't even a doctor. I don't think.
education at all.
I think he was a sales guy.
He was some doctor, but like had no pharmaceutical, nothing. He he just came up with this shit. And like, do you know how much you have to be gaslighting? The level of gaslighting for you to say, look, he may look like an addict looking for drugs, but that's because he's in so much pain.
Yeah.
In so much pain that he's desperate to find it.
Yeah.
Really? Why don't we actually take a look at, let's take a look at this. Like, why is he or she pursuing only this drug?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, something should click and say to you, right, this person is in so much pain that they're trying to take a whole bottle of Tylenol. That's not what they're doing. Yeah. They are driving miles and miles and miles and miles away from their hometown to find this specific drug. Doesn't that tell you that there's something on your drug? Is crack, motherfucker? Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too the separation of it's poor people in Appalachia. It's mostly poor white people in the mountains and in Pennsylvania, and they don't matter. They aren't important. They've brought it on themselves. They're genetically inclined to it because before this came along, they were all alcoholics, that kind of thing.
Right.
And when the doctor Art Van Zee testified, yes, and someone actually said to him, he's a doctor, and I don't even know what credentials a congressman or whatever has, but says
Chris Dodd was just a douchebag.
Yeah. Chris Dodd says to him, is that one of your cute little Appalachian phrases?
Yes. How
I don't know how
condescending.
Yes, and I don't know how the doctor didn't just pull off his mic and go up there and punch him, because.
But that's the other thing too. They get very offended when you come back at them, because like Marsha Blackburn.
Yes.
Marsha Blackburn got really in her feelings because she was trying to trample this dude who was Ranazizi, who was testifying. Why are you doing it? Why is like, okay, but I'm answering your questions. If you would take the time to go and find the information, because the information is there.
Yeah. You
just want me. So like, it's almost the same thing as it is your responsibility to not get addicted to these drugs. Yeah. So Marsha Blackburn's attitude was, it is your responsibility to bring me the information I should know before I question you about what you do. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
So I can see the frustration in him saying, look, you're not going to put this on me. You are a congressperson. You are a member of government, and you have staff. You have all kind of shit. You can't come here in this hearing and tell me, well, I was expecting you could give me information about this. You are about to approve a fucking law. You don't have enough information, and you putting it on me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're expecting me, one person, to disseminate all of this information to you, and you have a huge staff that can do all of that for you, bring you a binder, or I don't know, maybe you could go read it yourself. And yeah, I in those interviews that were taped, I could just feel the exasperation coming off of him. Like,
Yes.
I'm not unprepared. You're the one unprepared, but you're accusing me of being unprepared.
Yeah. And then just, I guess today's Attitude Monday. Like, look, that level of condescension, like, I swear to God, I would not have been able to. Like, I would have made a scene on C-SPAN right there, because this is bullshit. You know what? No, because that's gaslight. I mean, that's absolute gaslighting.
Yeah.
She knew that she was doing something wrong.
Yes.
This is a 3-page law.
3 pages. 3 pages. That's all I had to read, was 3 pages. And there's really only one sentence in it that's important.
Yes.
And it's devastatingly important. And the fact that none of them questioned the 3 pages, or from what I can tell, even had an attorney look at it. Because as they say in the documentary, everything about language, everything about law is language and the importance of language.
Yeah.
So if you are not an attorney and you don't understand the importance of language, or if you just plain don't understand the importance of language, period, and you're a congressperson or you're some sort of a representative, you need to have an attorney that is not just going to tell you what you want to hear. You need somebody who's going to disseminate this information and say to you, this is what this actually means, and this is what this is giving them the power to do. And I think that there's such a culture of being ashamed to ask questions once you get into a higher power, higher position, or have more power, that it just generates this culture of ignorance.
Yeah, but like, it's blissful. It's I don't know what I'm talking about, but all I have to do is look confident, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know anything, but I'm not going to worry about the fact that I don't know anything.
Okay, so what about, let me explain. Let me ask you this instead. So imagine the notion that a congressperson, a senator, has taken thousands upon thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars from Big Pharma. So if it were a judge that had any involvement in this, that judge, right, should have been made to recuse themselves.
Yes.
From that, right?
Yes.
How is that not happening in Congress? Why shouldn't a congressperson or senator be forced to recuse themselves from discussing a law project that has something to do with their donors? Because that's corruption right there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a direct correlation to a bribe.
So you're going to tell me that no one is going to question the fact that Graham and Jocelyn are the 2 people most hyped about a law that will benefit pharmaceutical companies? Like, no one is going to say, Graham, they helped you a lot on your last election.
Oh, I don't know that. Other people handle my books. I have no idea.
You know what? I don't care if you get offended, but I'm going to ask you,
Yeah.
nigga, you taking something from these motherfuckers? Because, like, you kind of, like, way too hype about this, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But that doesn't seem to happen here. It's just... But again, it brings me back to Graham is a socialist, communist, Venezuela kind of thing shit, because The fact of the matter is that these are things that should not be for profit. Healthcare, education, those things should not be for profit.
No.
They
No.
should not be for profit. Capitalism should have nothing to do with a people's healthcare and a people's education.
Agreed.
Because in countries where you have universal healthcare, pharmaceutical companies have to deal with the government. The only entity that buys their shit is the government. And the government is going to be prepared to tell them, we're going to test this shit. And independent of your testing, we are going to go through it. And I don't know. Yeah, maybe you can buy one or two people from the government, but it's not going to be as blatant as it happens here. You know, the whole idea of uncapped bonuses to push a medication that you know has the potential is highly addictive is insane, because you're literally sending people out there with Anglo-Saxon last names to be your drug dealers.
Yeah. And the people that they are selling to, and I'm not talking about the doctors, but the people who are actually becoming addicted to the medication are the folks who typically have been taught that doctors have their best interests at heart. And they may not trust a whole lot of people, but they're probably going to trust the family doctor.
Yep.
And they're going to do what the family doctor tells them to do. If it's on this piece of paper that I need to take 180 milligrams of this drug 3 times a day, then I must be going to. And a lot of them are going to keep doing it, even if it makes them feel like crap, because the doctor told me to do it. That's an authority figure that they have been taught that they should follow, much like a priest or a preacher or someone like that. So
all of the people that I don't trust.
Pretty much, yes. Same. So, but you know, I actually watched this documentary with a family member, and she said to me, she's like, do you see who the people that they're targeting with this? And I said, who are they targeting? And she said, uneducated people. She's like, people who are never going to push back or ask questions.
Yeah.
They're just going to do what they're told to do. She's like, poor, uneducated people.
Yeah.
And of course, there are other people who have gotten addicted to it. But the idea of the epidemic and the idea of the crisis has certainly affected the poorer regions much more so than it has middle class, upper middle class, that sort of thing. The reason for that being that there's money. They have money. They have better insurance that's going to pay for them to go to rehab and those sorts of things.
It's always about the poor and people of color.
Yes.
The targets are always about the poor and people of color.
Yes.
And even in terms of the consequences, even in terms of these people are going to pay for what they did, if you pay attention. And I was saying this to my wife because she watched the latter part of the second episode with me. And I'm like, do you realize that at the end of the day, the few people that went to prison, it was one Jewish guy, one Asian/Hawaiian lady, one South Asian dude, Dr. Kapoor, and ultimately some poor trash white guy from somewhere that,
Ohio, I think.
Ended up doing some shit that he wasn't supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But per capita, all of the people of color ended up going to jail.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the Sacklers are never, ever going to see the inside of a jail.
No, they never will. They'll never be accused of anything. And, you know, the idea too of like the I can't remember his name, but the gentleman who I think it was Ohio, the white dude.
Yeah.
he's serving, I forget how many years in federal prison, 12 years in federal prison, I think.
136 months, whatever that
Whatever that
translates
works out
into.
to.
Right.
And he made $300,000.
Yeah.
I mean, I ain't saying what he did was right, but I'm saying if we're just going to say this is money that we're talking about, he made $300,000.
Yep.
These people made $80 billion. And Dr. Kapoor, of course, made quite a bit of money, but he still didn't make anything near what the Sacklers made. Nowhere near.
In fact, Dr. Kapoor went to prison because he hadn't gotten to the level of buying himself a couple of congressmen.
Yes.
Simple as that.
If he'd had a couple more years, though, he would have been.
Of course.
He would have been. Of
course.
Yes.
And like even in terms of the sentencing of the white dude, if you think about it, like how many brothers are in Rikers right now? How many brothers in California are doing 20, 30 years because of a third strike with one dime bag in their pockets?
Yes.
This motherfucker bullshit from China, brought it into the United States, cooked his own shit, did all of that, and created this entire enterprise, right? The wife didn't even know about it. He got, and I'm sure he's gonna get out before, the 136 months.
Probably.
Yeah. There's brothers that are going to die or have died in prison because of a dime bag. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and Alabama is making it so it's even harder. I mean, even more likely that you're going to go to prison forever for a dime bag.
I mean, tell me about it. So this documentary reveals a lot more about the criminal justice system, about the war on drug that we ever thought we knew.
Yes.
Because it almost, if you have a name like El Chapo or Escobar or Aguilera or some shit, they will pursue you to the end of this earth, and you don't have the power of negotiating a plea and paying a $8 billion over 10 years, which after you agree to it, you go and say, I'm sorry, I'm broke, which is what the Sacklers did.
Yes.
Fine. Well, yeah. Okay, but we ain't got that kind of money.
Yeah, it's and the fact that they moved it out of the accounts, it was there.
They knew they were gonna get caught. They knew that justice was going to come to them.
So they moved it all away, and then they're like, "Oh, we paid taxes on it, so it's gone." Yeah,
it's amazing. It is an amazing thing. Do you know what I mean? Meanwhile, they hunted like a fucking rat. They hunted Pablo Escobar. And here's the crazy thing. And again, I'm not saying that Pablo Escobar was a good guy. That's not what I'm saying at all. But Pablo Escobar did shit for Colombia. As a matter of fact, even in terms of fucking international soccer, today Colombia has one of the best national soccer teams, and that's thanks to Pablo Escobar. Because you know what he did? He took all the kids of that era that had some talent and put them in soccer academies and made them, found them some of the best coaches in Latin America and even in Europe. And those kids are the ones who grew up to like, don't talk to me about shit. What have the Sacklers done?
Yeah.
Put their names on fucking museums and in art galleries and shit. Fuck y'all. Like, seriously. The only, like, the war on drug is not about drugs. Has never been about drugs. It has never been about drugs. It's a way to put black men in prison. It's a way to hunt down and fucking stigmatize people with Spanish last name.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's a way of just doing nothing and watching people poor white people die of overdoses and shit.
Yeah. It's a way to get rid of the undesirables.
Yes.
what is considered undesirable by the people, the Sacklers of the world. Of course, it's lovely to be able to go to a museum and see some amazing art and that kind of thing, and architecture, and that's wonderful and great. But how many people from Appalachia are ever going to make it there?
Exactly.
How many of them are ever going to make it there to see all of those wonderful things? Because they're in big cities where there's lots of very wealthy, affluent people and upper middle class and folks who might be able to scrape some money together to go to the museum if they can afford the entrance fee, because a lot of them have entrance fees.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
the Smithsonian is free, but I think it's the only one that is.
Yeah.
So it's just it's disgusting on so many levels. And I actually have a theory about Dr. Kapoor.
Go on.
Because I think Dr. Kapoor tangled with someone that he shouldn't have. And this is my theory based on my past experiences with medical billing. He actually, in the documentary, it's shown that he had a team of people who were lying to insurance companies to get a very expensive drug approved.
Yeah.
So then the insurance company would pay for it $15,000 and $30,000 a month for this particular drug. It was supposed to only be for end of life cancer patients,
Right.
for breakthrough pain. And so he had a team of people who were bilking the insurance company. Insurance companies have a lot of people in their pockets.
Yes.
In government. And I honestly think if he had not done that, he would be just as big as the Sacklers.
Yes.
But he tangled with somebody bigger than him. And the Blue Crosses of the world, the Aetnas of the world, the Cignas of the world. No, we're not going to do that. No, we've got 10 congressmen that we're going to call right now and go, you get this motherfucker out of the country.
Of course. And when they look at this dude, what? A long-haired South Asian looking dude? This guy is not a Sackler. He has no right to be doing any of this.
Right,
Fuck
exactly,
that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
He's taking our money.
Yes. Yes. No, but like Jojo, your theory is absolutely plausible, absolutely perfect. Because it is when things started to go south when Dr. Kapoor created this little team and stuff. And the other thing is that he was like writing shit down.
Yes. And that was obviously not something that was the smartest thing in the world to do if you're going to be doing illegal things. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure the Sacklers had the same kind of information.
You have to go through 175,000 lawyers before you get to one of these documents.
Exactly. So, I mean, Dr. Kapoor maybe shouldn't have kept it on a Google Doc. That was probably a bad idea. Because I recognized it when it came up. I was like, oh yeah, I used to fill those out a lot. But no, it's just when he did that. And the insurance company, of course, he cracked, and when they talk about, he cracked the algorithm of the insurance companies. And that's completely true. That exists. I know about it. I've never attempted to crack it. I've never done anything I'm not supposed to do to get authorization from an insurance company because I'm an ethical person and I worked for ethical people. However, there is an algorithm that you can crack and you can change and you can get things approved that you shouldn't. And the other thing that people need to realize, or that Dr. Kapoor did not realize, is the fact that they know when you've cracked the algorithm. It may take them a while to catch up, but once they start paying a lot of claims, they're going to go, no, this isn't right. No, we're not going to have suddenly all these breakthrough cancer patients with breakthrough cancer pain in Peoria, Illinois. All of a sudden. That's just not going to happen. So he picked the wrong tiger to poke. Is that the saying? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think if he hadn't done that, he would have.
And I think it's pretty much the same thing that happened the way that, the three big distribution companies, including McKesson, were kind of like found out in the sense that, dude, are you really stupid or are you pretending to be stupid when you know that some dude who used to order 5,000 pills a month, now all of a sudden, 1 month he ordered 60,000, the next month he ordered 150,000, and the next month, boom, 300,000, and you ain't gonna say anything? You're not gonna like what?
Yeah. And
You
we're
know,
not talking baby aspirin or Benadryl here. This is a controlled, highly dangerous controlled substance.
absolutely.
So, no.
And let me ask you this: do you think it was like brazen, like even ballsy for those doctors that created those pill mills? Like seriously, because like those were the easiest ones to crack. Like when you go to a strip mall and you see three different pain management, like seriously, dude, how did they even get away with that for a while?
I don't know. I lived in the town for a while, the town I grew up in, that there was several of those that
Uh
did have
huh.
that popped up in around the time that we're talking about. And I had never heard the term pain management before. And I thought, oh, that's a little strange term, like why is there like a strip mall with paint, like a
Yeah.
kind of a not 100% great, but not a 100% terrible looking sort of place.
Yeah.
And I actually knew someone that I was friends with someone who started going to the one of the pain management doctors who had legitimate pain issues.
Hmm.
She'd had a botched operation and she needed help. And she had tried lots of different avenues, and somebody suggested that she go to a pain management doctor, much like what happened to the poor lady in Salt Lake City that is
Right.
mentioned in the
In
documentary
Utah.
in Utah.
Yeah.
Very similar to that. Um, and she became addicted, and it happened very quickly. And I watched it happen very quickly. And it was one of those things where I was like, you're not the same person.
Yeah.
You were a very compassionate, a very kind person, and now you're the complete opposite of that. And there's facets of your personality that I'm not even sure existed before you became addicted.
Wow.
And so she had a partner that would go with her to these appointments who was not in pain. And the partner shared with me how the place ran. And it was exactly the way it was run in the way it was discussed in the documentary. You would go see the
Really?
doc, it would be a couple seconds with the talk, they would write you a script, you would go down to the hall, you would fill your prescription, and then you would leave. And then they would have their own little like if you needed your prescription in between times, you could just walk up to a certain prescription window and get that and leave. And what I don't know is if it was a state level, because we are talking about some of the poorer states in the country. If there's just no way for them to have enough people to regulate to say, we need to go crack down on these people, back to your original question, if is it on this, can you blame it on the state level that there's not enough regulation, or is it the federal level that there's not enough regulation for these pill mills to have even started?
Right.
I feel as though the state is partially to blame because, as we saw through the documentary, a lot of these pill mills were in Florida.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and the reason for that was because they have very poor regulation and there's
Yeah.
not a lot of rules in Florida, and the rules that are there's not a lot of people to enforce them. So I do feel that the states have some level of responsibility in this because, again, it's the poorer states where these pill mills were happening.
Yeah. Of the two stories that we saw here, like the human stories we saw, um, I am fascinated by Lynn Weber, that doctor who, till today, he's playing the victim.
Yes.
He's like, can you believe this shit?
Yes.
And I'm like, dude, have
Yes.
you done anything wrong at all? Like, are you ever going to, like, yeah, people die on me and shit. No, there was 100 and some. It's like, yeah, but some of them were getting old. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
this motherfucker.
Yes. Yes. And the interviewee specifically said to them, you had 100 people die in your practice of overdose.
Yeah,
And he was like, no, that doesn't seem normal. And then he caught himself and was like, well, yeah, well, I don't really know. I see a lot of patients and, some of them were getting old. And I was like, he said overdose. He didn't say they died of old age
Yeah,
or they died of cancer or
yeah.
anything like that. But no, that man had a level of pushing blame that
Wow.
was unbelievable. I mean, the narcissism on that individual was boggling.
There was another thing that he does that is very Fox Newsy is when people claim to not know something and just genuinely asking questions, but it's more, let me ask those questions to sow doubt because I know that a lot of people may have thought about those questions, although I have the answers, although I know what I'm talking about, but I'm just going to push it out there because he kept saying, well, I think the question you have to ask is, what is overdose? Is there like, no, over, like, what do you mean, what is overdose? Motherfucker, you are a medical doctor. You don't, like, really? Well, you have to ask yourself, like, how far pain is pain? Is pain something, something? And I'm like, no, nigga, we all know the answer to these questions. What are you doing?
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
like, there is no such thing as too much of a dose for somebody who is in extreme pain. And how far is extreme pain? Like, and then at some point he said something about like, I could either help them get rid of the pain or their life were living with the pain. And I'm like, so you just get them high and let them die? Like,
Yeah.
did you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
His reasoning was,
Yeah.
you can come to me and die high, or
Or-
don't come to me and die in pain. But
Yeah.
I'm not helping you. Like,
Yeah.
it was so clear, Jojo. Like,
Yes.
this guy is he's putting out the thing about these kind of people, gaslighters at the end of the day are transparent
Yes.
because you only have to pay attention to what they're saying. You only have to pay attention to what they're saying because they spin the truth so much that at the end of the day, they end up telling you the truth. And this guy was saying, like, yeah, I mean, okay, so yeah, I don't help, I don't give them pills, they live in pain. Is their life worth living with all that pain? No. I give them pain. I give them pills. They feel better. And they may die. But hey, whatever, dude.
Their life wasn't worth living anyway. So yeah. Yeah. He was baffling to me.
Yeah.
He was very baffling to me. I've not seen that level of self-denial to such an extreme.
That's insane.
I was very surprised that he agreed to an interview or that his attorneys allowed him to have an interview.
That's the level of narcissism you got
Yes.
right there.
Yes.
This dude literally thinks that he should get fucking the Medal of Freedom.
Yes.
He thinks of him. He takes himself very seriously, Jojo.
Yes. Yes. Very, very much so. Very, very much so. You know, I'm glad you mentioned him because I've never, I can't even.
I would pause this thing, and my son started watching the first episode with me, right? And it was weird for me that he got interested because like I started it right there. He was sitting eating something on in the kitchen, and he's like, "Where is this on Netflix?" And I'm like, "No, that's on HBO Max." And he finished what he was eating, and he sat next to me and watched the entire thing. And I would pause it. I'm like, "Are you watching this?"
Did you hear what he just said? Did I hear it wrong? Did he actually say that?
Like, what is he talking about? Like, that
Yeah.
was like, Tucker Carlson type of level of baffling gaslighting. Like,
Yeah.
is it really something? Are we talking about like, yeah, that's
As
what
a-
we're talking.
As a medical doctor, it is not your job to discuss the metaphysical properties of pain. It is your job to treat the physical pain. And if there are mental issues that are going along with it, you refer them to a doctor who is a specialist when it comes to some sort of mental illness or mental problems. But if you are solely a medical doctor, you are not trained in
Right.
philosophy. You're not trained in mental health. You are a general practitioner. So, yeah, no, the idea of just a GP opening a pain management clinic and making so much money off of it and causing so much hurt and so much death, and the fact that he essentially told the lady in Utah that he told her husband that he owned her,
Yeah, man.
was I don't know how someone like that can exist. I don't know how nature allows them to exist.
That was insane.
Yeah. I also, and this is sort of different, but I did not realize that the pharmaceutical companies, and that would be led by Purdue Pharma, invented the pain scale, the little sad faces and the happy faces and the miserable faces. I did not know that they invented those.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting to learn, and also a real mind opener for me to see how much of their tentacles are in everything,
Yeah.
because that's huge. When you go into a doctor's office, well, if you're a woman, the first thing they ask you is when was the last date of your menstrual cycle. But the next thing they show you is the little happy sad faces, and
Yeah.
that's what you get. And so I am like, that's run by the people who are selling the pills. A doctor didn't come up with that. A marketing team
Yeah.
came up with that.
Yeah.
A marketing team.
Yeah.
Salespeople came up with the little happy, sad, yuck faces. What the fuck? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but that's to me, that the whole 4 hours of the thing was worth it just to learn that.
Yeah.
And I learned so much more, but that little piece for me was just,
Look, like as you said, there's a lot I learned there that it's the proverbial knowing how the sausages make,
yeah,
and it can be actually sickening.
Yeah.
There's a moment there were several moments where I was absolutely baffled. But the most baffling of all of them were the moments Dr. Weber was on screen. And the simplest question that he was asked, that when he answered it, I didn't know if to just laugh my ass off or just stop and cry. It was, why did you name your clinic Life Tree? And this nigga looked at the camera and said, I had to name it something. And I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. What? Well, I had to name it something.
I
That's it?
yeah, I was taken aback by that as well. I was like, he doesn't even have a polished answer for that. You know, he could have. Then he started the bullshit. Oh,
You
well,
could see.
yeah. Oh, well, the tree has roots, and the roots are part of the community, and blah blah blah. But his first answer is deer in the headlights. Well, I had to name it something.
Jojo, do you know how much of an answer that I have for just why did you name your podcast Kicking Instrument? I got the entire half hour to explain this fucking thing to you.
Yeah.
This motherfucker has an internationally renowned clinic, pain management clinic. The question is, why did you name it? I had to name it something. I'm like, you know what? I'm done with this book, right? I'm done with you, man. Like, this is pure stand-up comedy kind of shit.
Yes. Yes. For a second, it was like, is this SNL? Did I switch channels? You know, I mean, honestly,
Oh my God.
it was because I think he was like mid-drink or something. He was holding like a drink, and the way the shot was, it was very much. It could have been SNL. I mean, he was like, well, I had to name it something. Like, okay,
yeah, the drink thing too. Like, So yeah, man. I tell you what, man. I'm glad we we decided to go with this one.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I know that there are other podcasts that review movies and blah blah blah. And by the way, I did a search for kicking and streaming, and I found like there's like 5 other podcast names kicking and streaming. But guess what?
Really? What?
They all started after us.
Aha.
Yeah.
Bastages.
Yeah, it's just an amazing thing to me, and I know this is a bit off topic, but it's just an amazing thing to me that people don't do a quick search. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
let me see if somebody else is doing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for me, it's just, oh, I like this name. I'm just gonna do a podcast and name it exactly that. Like, really, dude? You can't come up with some? You can't come up with something. Well, luckily, the ones that I've seen, they came up after us, and they don't have more than 12 episodes. Because they realize at some point podcasting is not that easy. I guess they edited a couple of times. They were like, "Oh, this shit is hard."
This is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah,
Why am I not rich yet? I'm gonna go sell pills.
yeah. I'm not Joe Rogan yet. I don't have a YouTube channel with 1 million views a day. Nope, not for me.
Yeah. Don't bye. Peace out.
Right. So yeah, I'm glad we decided to do this. Like what I was going with this is that not a lot of podcasts like us will do episodes about documentaries, and I'm glad we did. I'm glad we do. I'm glad we find some of those and we watch them. I can't tell you how much you will learn about the opioid epidemic and how much is going to be an eye opener if you watch this documentary, because it points finger at the people responsible, and there's more to it than, oh, we have a crisis in our hand. I think at the beginning it said that a crisis is something that just happens.
Yes.
So typically you're not prepared for it, and you find yourself in the midst of it. Whereas the opioid epidemic was orchestrated, enabled, and supported.
Yes.
So the fact that we are calling it a crisis is a bit of a, like, I don't know.
Wrong.
Yeah,
Wrong.
this is disingenuous, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. The human cost of this, 500 million or 500, can't even talk, 500,000 Americans so far that we know of have died.
Yeah.
And of course, it's underreported because people are ashamed.
Yeah.
And because there are family doctors out there who don't want to shame families. And so they'll write, cause of death, suicide, or that sort of thing. They're not going to put overdose. And the families that are left, and I used to work in addiction counseling centers a few years ago, and to see the amount of young people who were addicted to the oxys, the opioids, and to listen to the parents and the young wives and the kids, and the person has been in rehab this is their 10th go round, and listening to the family crying, and this is the last time we're going to go through this, we can't do this anymore, or this is going to be the time that it takes, this is the time they're going to get sober. And the amount of psychic trauma that is causing to the country, to the population of the country, it's not just the people who have died, it's the millions and millions of people that are left.
Devastated.
Yeah. And the genuine healthcare workers who want to help, and who are touched by these people and see the pain. That's also a thread of cost that's going to run throughout the country. So it's not just about people, addicts, getting a high or getting a kick or that sort of thing. It's not what it's about. It's about a complete devastation and breakdown of families, of lives, of just the ability to be happy.
Yeah. Well said, Jojo. You know your thing, man. Like I ain't even. No, I don't think I have anything else to say. Watch this documentary, and hopefully you'll find you'll learn something from it. And I think, in terms of politics, it teaches us that we have to vote responsibly. We talk a lot about voting, like go vote, go vote, go vote, go vote. But there's this thing about voting responsibly, because some of the people that we are sending to Washington that we generally are in agreement with, at the end of the day, there might be some things they're doing that we're contributing to because we're responsible for that vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
very, very true. It's very, very true. There are many people that are elected that, honestly should not have been, just because somebody wasn't sure which box to tick.
Yep.
So it's important to not be lazy in your voting, and understand the responsibility and the fact that you're putting someone in a position of power who is going to be responsible for lives, and it may come down to your life, your child's life,
Yes,
your parents' life, your brothers and sisters' life.
Yes. And to be honest with you, it is amazing that, the places and the people that are affected the most by this epidemic, most of them vote one way.
Yes.
And we know that if there is one political current in this country that hates the poor, that literally hates the poor,
yeah,
is that party. So we ain't gonna go into politics. I just wanted to say this. I just wanted to say this.
No.
They protect the most powerful. They perpetrate the notion of trickle down economics. One of the most humiliating theories I've ever heard. You have to be a moron to not understand that someone is telling you you are relegated to what falls off the table of the richest motherfuckers around you. That the little job that you get, the 40 to 60 hours that you work a week, somebody's getting tons of millions of tax breaks so that they can give you a $12, $10 an hour job.
Yes.
That's trickle down. That's what is trickling down.
Yes.
So vote responsibly. We're going to leave it right there. Jojo and I appreciate you tuning in and watching and listening. This was a bit grim, but it had to be talked about. Maybe next week we'll come back with something a bit happier, innit?
Or even sadder. Who knows?
Yeah, we could go sadder and shit. Who cares?
Could.
You will find me on Instagram, on Facebook, and also on the Twitter. I am Mr. Puzzetta. That's MRPUZETTA. Jojo is on vacation from social media.
I am, but I'll be back.
Yeah, we've been hearing that for a while now, but hey, whatever, dude.
Yeah, I know. I know, but also so.
Right. So next week we'll be coming back with one more for you. We thank you for being here today.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye now.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Kicking and Streaming Podcast. If you found value in our content, please subscribe and share. We would also be delighted to hear what you think of this podcast. So please rate us by writing a quick review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all major social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Join the conversation happening today on our Facebook group.